Oh, yeah. Hello to everybody. I have a little bit lightning here today. I don't have Ushinishes. Ushinishes should be somewhere here. But somewhere here, there's a bright lights coming. Anyway, it is due to we are recording this at night. It's now 9 o'clock in the evening. And earlier, our usual recording failed because of internet problem here. Okay, so now just to briefly to mention why having light here. So I hope you have a good time and well, and also some of you have had participated His Holiness teaching, and I'm sure you have you enjoyed the teachings. So here, last few days, everything is fine. There's the virus hasn't reached here, and apart from my samsaric morning, now more and more raining. So it is also part of why we lost this afternoon, lost the internet connection, because last few days a very heavy storm and lots of trees fall down and so forth. So anyway, apart from those samsaric things, everything's okay. All right. So now I'm going straight to the book. So as we know, our reading is this nice, the what you call the prayer composed by Lama Tsongkhapa, which is very, as I mentioned, when we start this in Gelug tradition, for example, in Selame, we have a very, very nice tune to chant this, a very nice tune. And I memorized this text, when I was maybe 14 or 15 years old, I can't remember. So very nice, text. So, it has this particular, what you call the meaning, because here it says close lineage, prayer for the blessings of the close lineage. So, in other words, the text is written by Geshe Tashi Tsering to repay or to recall one of his spiritual friends, the Paotoje Lama Tsongkhapa, who had a special connection with the Manjushri, and Manjushri is the Tsongkhapa is like a more or less his direct teacher, and Lama Tsongkhapa, the Paotoji, seems play a big role in that connection, Geshe Tashi and the Manjushri. So that's the text that we are reading, and our reading finished up to verse 6, and today just briefly recap verse 4 and 5, and verse 4 is, as you recall, really mainly to remind ourselves as a follower of the teachings of the Buddha, what are the what kind of qualities that we should have, mainly the mental qualities, what we should have. And that is mainly this verse 4, saying that less desire for the samsaric things, and have the sense of contentment, what we have got, and also have a degrees of relaxation, calm, and in other words, concentration, and also have the ability to keep our body, speech, and mind in a what you call in an ethical, live in an ethical way. In other words, discipline. Have the ability to restrain ourselves, restrain our body, speech, and mind from those wrongdoings, and then also have a deep sense of yearning for the liberation, for the enlightenment, and also have sense of honesty, in our speech, in our action, and so those are some of the qualities which are mentioned in that verse. And another quite often, which I briefly mentioned the other day, the quality of unbiased. Biased attitude is not very helpful as a genuinely, sincerely spiritual seeker. The spirituality or our spiritual path should be learned from everywhere, from anybody, not to have some kind of these are the as I mentioned the other day, not in that way. Like in Tibetan there is an expression saying if it is good qualities, good quality in the sense virtues. If it is virtue, then we should learn, even it is from the dog which has a virtue, then we should learn from that. And that's very nice expression, non-biased. And also the second important attitude is have the ability to analyze, to examine the right, wrong, those things. In other words, intelligent, have the intelligence. And the third one, which I briefly already mentioned, dearness, have that kind of yearning, longing for the spiritual path that oneself is seeking for. So those are the this briefly to just recap verse 4. And here it is important, when we are going, when we go through these kind of good quality of list of good qualities, virtues, list of virtues. What Geshe Tashi said, I think in the Lama Tsongkhapa, when you come across these kind of virtues, from the teachings, just to examine whether I have got those virtues and qualities or not. Then if you already have got, sort of rejoice and also see can it be enhanced. If you haven't got, put effort to have it, and also to make some kind of determination to have it, to have those virtues quality. And this is what sometimes when we go through list, it is not. I know Westerners don't like listing. Somehow the Easterners seems like listing. I don't know anyway. So, but that is important to. The next verse 6, briefly. That verse is really, again, we have since we start to read some of these texts, we came across again and again, recalling the nature of impermanence, and particularly nature of impermanence in relation to our lives. By recalling that, then what that reflection will do, that reflection, that remembering of the nature of the impermanence, the nature of the death, then this will lead us. This will lead us to, if ourselves is sincere spiritual seeker, sincere follower of the teachings of the Buddha, then this will not, this understanding, this realization will help us not to waste the time, energy, and the resource that we have. And also, how it helps, this will, help us not to, here it says, six member 10 long, the long meba, second line. That not just verbally you are able to say death is indefinite. Time of the death, the death is definite. Time of the death is indefinite. Not just able to say that, not just verbally say it, but really feel from the heart. Siksam member 10 recall, just not by the word. Long member, then that will help us to say, no, I don't have time to waste, or don't have time to just spend my time or energy or resources for the meaningless collection, to collect, gathering, meaningless events. Wealth, have it from the deep sense, from the heart, have a deep sense of dislike, deep sense of repulsion, shenlopa, shambalopa. That is the repulsion, that you have a deep sense of dislike when towards the wealth and what you call the honor or fame. So that is what. So those are the just briefly recap, and important. These are the important. We are repeating that again and again. Now today's our main reading will be verse 7. Verse 7. Seeing all beings to be my mother's most kind, bless me that I, recalling the sufferings of the weak, turn from practice born of self-interest towards an effortless love and compassion. Okay, so Lujen Tata Tinje Marshepe. So in the first line in Tibetan, Lujen Tata Tinje Marshepe. Lujen, literally it means having body. Lu is the body. Now the body should not be understood just only physical body. Like when we talk about aggregates, 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates, the aggregate is not only referring to the physical aggregates, form aggregates, and the other remaining 4 aggregates also considered as aggregates. So this Lujen, quite often, in the Tibetan, that expression, that term is used to say living beings, sentient beings. In other words, saying having the body. The body doesn't mean the only physical body, as many of you know. According to the Buddhist, the Abhidhamma texts, some of the living beings have only 4 aggregates. And us have all the 5 aggregates. Whether it's lucky or unlucky, I don't know. Sometimes I feel, if we don't have this physical aggregate, life is easier. Don't need to go to the loo, don't need to wash, don't need to shave hairs, don't need to go to do the exercises, and also don't need to put all these nice things and all those things. Just 4 aggregates. Hapan is more. But it says, in order to do something meaningful, something useful, something, then physical body having, the form aggregates is more, have more opportunities, have more chances to do rather than just having the 4 aggregates. So it's half-half, I think. From the positive side, if we use positively, yes, this body can have lots of positive things that we can do. But otherwise, as I mentioned some time ago, we become just slave, just to look after this body. And particularly when you get older, like my age, then more repair is needed. Like those old cars. When you have a new car, less repair. But when you have an old car, then more and more repair, and more repair. Like that. So anyway, so Lujen is all living beings, all sentient beings. Lujen Tada. That means all. To see as a kind matters. Kind, loving matters. And this is very, important, as you know. For example, in the 8 verses of mind training, the first verse, it says, may I see, all living beings as as important as those precious gems. Those are very valuable, worldly, very valuable, very precious. May I able to see? So that kind of sense of closeness, a sense of closeness, a sense of dear, and that feeling, that understanding is something very, very important for us. Without that kind of sense of closeness, without that kind of sense of dear, then very difficult to cultivate, long-lasting love, compassion. And based on these 2, bodhicitta, mind of enlightenment, so there's this, as many of you know, there are two what you call the 2 types of mind training to cultivate bodhicitta. One is called 7-point cause and effect. There are 7 stages, 7 steps. And this is what, the first one, out of the 7, the first step is this one, seeing all living beings as one's own kind mother. Or, which Shantideva specialized, that's the second method, equalizing and exchanging oneself with others. Which method that we use, what we need to cultivate deep, deep sense of closeness, sense of dear. And that's what here, this first line, Lujen Tata Chinjen Mashib. Nyamta Namji, Dune Tenjune. Nyamta. I think here they translated saying weak, of the weak. That's what translated. But we can say Nyamta. This is very, very common usage of term. Nyamta, for example, these days when we, the monasteries or the different organizations, go to different villages to contribute, to distribute some, what you call the grains, the flour, oil, cooking oil, and they what usually say destitute, or we can say desperate people, needy people, and that's what here nyamta. In Tibetan, we use that term nyamta. That means really needy. That's really desperately needed, help and support. For example, these days, in many places, and now I'm talking about in India, due to the lockdown, it is just, sad to see some of the other day at one of my friends, colleague Abbott, he sent me a video. I think it is one of those American company, television company, I think CNN, have a one, the what you call the channel in here in India, and they follow this family, young couple, Indian young couple, lives in a very far called Ambala, which is very, the north, not very, very north, but north from the Delhi, have 3 children, and the lady was heavily pregnant, and they have a bicycle, and they start to walk from Ambala, and they're going to go down to the Madhya Pradesh, which more than 500 miles, and they're walking. So this television crew, they really follow them. But then, of course, certain stage they can't go. And then they did some sort of, the connection with the family. And this pregnant lady, she gave birth while they were walking. And this interviewer, a lady, and she was really shocked. And she asked, "And how many days did you rest?" And the lady said, "No, they haven't rest. No, I had pain in my stomach. Then I was ready to labor, then give birth. Then the interviewer asked, "Is there any hospital?" The lady said, "No, there's nothing. We're in the middle of nothing in the road, and there are a few other friends. They helped me." So that sort of thing, and that's what we are talking about in a very, very obvious destitute or desperate need help. But here the nyamtanamli donge. So we're at this stage we are talking about very gross suffering, as we know when we study the Four Noble Truths. Suffering of change, pervasive suffering. And some of these, so therefore, to say these kind living beings who have been very, very kind, very, very, caring, loving, and so forth, going through such a difficult time. So bringing that to recall, recollect, to think, contemplate. And this is very important, Of course, we should help, we should work to solve, to overcome the obvious suffering. As I just mentioned this example, the lady. Obvious in the sense when we talk, when we explain it is a suffering. There's no argument with that. But also we should be able to think about, the suffering of change, and also think about pervasive suffering. When we are able to understand all these different layers of suffering, then nobody will left behind to express our compassion. Of course, living Buddhas, they don't need our compassion, but I'm talking about sentient beings. All living beings, in earlier this legend have this, the aggregates. Because as long as, within under the power of, these three poisons, no matter what types of, for example, I gave you that example, this lady who suffered tremendously, and the richest, those ladies somewhere there, obviously, when in the surface, big difference. One lady walking for hundreds of miles with the three young children. Then now there's a newborn child, and as soon as born, when I listen that, when I watch that in my head, what I have is, because when I was in London, I used to watch quite a lot on the television, the animal world. Some of those in the forest, when these gazelles, those very, what you call don't have fangs or don't have all those things, when they give birth in a long grass, and when the calves just start to walk, the mother just immediately try to take the calf in the safe place, hardly stay around. That came into my head. That lady, she said, no, we don't have, there's no hospital, there's nothing. We didn't stay in it, just walk. So that is, so that lady and the ladies or the people who have, everything, or in India or in other places, when we look at the what you call the front, there's a big difference. But if you look at more deeper and deeper and deeper, certain levels of suffering is same. Pervasive suffering. So if we do that, then our compassion, love, compassion will be unbiased. Otherwise, it's perfectly possible to have a very biased compassion. We may be able to express very strong sympathy to this lady. We may not be able to express to the others who are not having that. So that is something important to remember. That's the second line. So to recall, to contemplate, to think again and again and again the sufferings, the pain, the difficulties that living beings endure, go through, and which these living beings are very dear to me, very important, very precious, very close to me. So when we start to, build that kind of understanding, that kind of, what you call the understanding, then we will have a, deep sense of love, compassion. And that is what here. So in third line that I'm reading, so saying, "Me rang de pashik dula yilok de, Ilopa. So saying that, turn away the attitude, just working, thinking for one's own purpose, for one's own sake. Rangde, Rang is self, Dewa is joy or happiness or those. Bashik, only thinking, mind which is only thinking one's own well-being. May I be able to turn away from that kind of attitude, that kind of mental state. Rangde Bashik to the Yi Lokde. Yi is the mind, Lokpa is reverse or turn away. And that's what this line 3. These are very, very nice. I don't know in English how nice, but these are very, very nice in Tibetan. Each word has a very pointing meaning. Rang de, bashik. Rang de means self, one's own joy. Literal translation. Bashik only. Bashik, double, to accomplish, to have. Yi is the mind, Lokpa is reverse. So to reverse or to turn away the mind which is just thinking one's own joys and happiness. And this is what, some of you who watch his honest, the teachings last, to Saturday and Sunday morning. He repeated again and again and again and again. The self-centered mind. Self-centered mind is something that we really need to, deal with. And that's what exactly this line 3 actually is talking about. Turn away from the self-centered mind. Reverse our that self-centered mind to, Rangde Bashi to le yilo de Ningji Tsume Kyawa Chinjilo. Bless me. Bless me so that so in other words to bless bless me or to have the compassion which is effortlessly expressed, which is effortlessly shown to the others. Of course, the blessing alone will not come. Our compassion become effortless. Of course, we need training. Again and again and again and again. When we train ourselves again and again and again, then that what the mind that we trained will occur, will arise effortlessly, will experience effortlessly. And that is very clear if we closely examine our self-centered mind, our egoistic mind. Those minds arise effortlessly. Why? Because day and night, even in a dream, we let them to occur. We let them to arise. And then, there's no difference whether these are constructive mind or whether these are destructive mind. In terms of how they, come, arise in within ourselves, it's same. So therefore, at the moment to express compassion, genuine compassion, love to others, we have to put lots of effort. Think, again and again and again. But even when we think again and again, sometimes difficult to able to express genuine compassion. Why? Because we do that very, very occasionally. The other side of the mind, egoistic mind, self-centered mind, they occur very spontaneously because we do it again and again and again. So that's the difference. So this is the verse. Really, in other words, the previous verse, verse 6, is more like a training our mind to turn away from the attachment of the samsaric things. And this verse 7, is turning our mind away from the self-centered mind. In other words, to train to have the altruistic awakened mind. And that is, so here what we can see, again, we can see some kind of steps training our mind. Like the verse 5 is really like preparing ourselves to train. Have those, as I mentioned the other day, like the very fertile ground to plant the nutritious, very delicious those plants. Then the verse 6 is really that first step to train our mind, to train ourselves, to have a less and less attachment to the samsaric things. What that will do, that will give us time, energy, and resource to do the practice. To do what we... And the next one here, the verse 7 is the next step. Not just enough to train our mind to free from attachment, but also to train our mind to be free from, the self-centered mind. And that is what here, the other day, His Holiness, when he was talking about, when he's giving teachings on this Nagajuna's, the precious garland, he quote, which he does very often. He quote Aryadeva's text, and there are 4 lines. Sonamimba tambudo, pardo dani dobachi, tamatashin kundona, tishedini kevain. Sonamimba tambudo. First, to really eradicate or to eliminate those non-virtuous minds and behaviors. In the middle, to free or to eliminate self-grasping. And third, to eliminate all, not just the self-grasping, the propensity, the seeds of self-grasping. People who understand this way to train, those are the wise people to train their mind. So those 3 stages, which His Holiness, talks a lot in the last 2 days. Just mainly he touched on that verse, and so 18 or 16 or 18 factors to cultivate within ourselves, to to be born in fortunate rebirth and also liberate. Then to talk about the second one. So those are really something here. Also, we can see stage of training. Okay, so that is our today's reading. So we finished verse 7, and the next time we will read verse 8. Then verse 9 and 10, those two verses are more like a dedication. But anyway, we will see how much time that we will spend on this text. But obviously, we will spend one session on verse 8, which is important verse. Okay, so that is finished reading the text, and we'll do para practice recitation. Podalai ne jone tami jango le dosh. Ba meji ula jen tu sum sanye chinem. Brahma koje jezo zo lada lami chemi. Shabye bemo la de pongba kuma dunze. Brahma yam la cha se. On je ma pama drama la cha se no chanza drama nyuma kwa. Jene geje loda dama chiken somgon chege je. Kesa chewa lene joma chanze tongge tawa kun. Kawa jene zikbe she ma kama tongda soba. Rabdo chewe rabara ma chanze seme chene ye. Peme chane nambara je ma jemba zundu kato she. Soba samde ju nye ma chanze tejin shebe do. Taye nambara jawa che ma mali kwaro che ma to. Jawe seje shindo ten ma chanze. Jawe seje shindo ten ma chanze to da rang ye. De da cho da namga ka ma jigden topo shakine. De ba me ba gu ba ne ma chanze jaje me la ca. Nong la na so wang ju che ma chongpo ro na che zan. Nijun zoji dune de ma chanze cheche chadang pe. Paro chubu rabdo jong ma yikong yin jang shabye. Mebar chubu shindo bara ma chanze ture jikwa chen. Duji bo nambar jong ma chuji shene chunye den. Tao tamje ma lu se ma chanze kunjo sumte chan. Seme toga nambar jen ma lu choje kolo jen. Rajewe tsonum che ma chanze rabdo ga je. Ujin je tenwa pe ma sheba rabje to da ra. De da jiden wando de ma chanze saji kyong so. Tamje gu ba ne ma nye ma chonye yewa yege. Pongpa tamje nambar to ma chanze da we do bo. Gemba tamje shindo bara ma rebe chone ba ne. Tabor shindo roze ma chanze kebe tamane. Barre tengwe ne ma yejan yongom kune ko. Daye kune nambara jong ma chanze sashi ma chan. Tuje nuje shabje dong ma chunye tenze yege. Wadumbo na nege ma chanze tema ke ma she. Nyangen deshin chu nye ma sowa omda yanda den. Tiba jombo jomba nye ma chanze kune kwaro ka. Daye lune nambara ke ma yege chube ngane kwe. Riva hunle kama nye ma chanze tore shane da. Honge nambe sabe nye ma rera menda radambe. Chigen sumna yewa nye ma chanze lae choye. Da tajen chana ma tara nye chebe ye. Dena ma lu panen se ma chanze lae sonje. Hadam miyam chi te ma gune goja kawa je. Zedam melam ngenpa se ma chanze nima dawa je. Chinye pola ero se ma ara nye ju tu da ra. Shindo tabwe rinne se ma chanze tingin sum kwe. Shive Todaya Dadema, the Darana Nison, Chombatore Rajonima, Savanga de Tobade, Chanze Wane Nishoza. Chanjo Semjo Rembo Che Maje Pano Maje Goj Jeba Nyamba Mebaya Kone Kondo Kanri Rave Korve Shingam De Penda Dewa Malu Jomene Chenre Senwa Tenzin Jazo Yi Shabe Side Pado Tenju. Oh yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. And little bit shorter, I think it's good. Too long is not good. So thank you for listening and take care and see you soon. Bye-bye.